the lab task that we prepared, there's actually a glitch in this task. This was actually pointed out last year, but haven't actually had the time to actually go back and correct it. So what's actually happened in this one is if you get down to the end, it actually says to attack DVWA with HT-Track, okay? HT-Track is, and it's not even a correct title. Basically, HT-Track allows you to download a website is what it allows you to do. So why is it a form of attack? Well, if I can download a copy of it, I can then do offline browsing of that website and potentially look for faults that are there. Okay. One of the things you can actually do is you can actually fingerprint a site to actually find out what it's actually running. But this lab here will give you a number of things. It actually says use Skipfish and so on. So what I'll do is I'll just show you quickly. Here's one I prepared earlier, and of course it's timed out, so I need to go back in there. Now, these are the downloadable VMs that are actually there. If you've downloaded the pre-built VMs, you don't need to follow the instructions in the lab this week for Docker, okay? So if you have a look at the instructions, I'll just bring them back for a moment. Okay, so here's the instructions. It actually goes through for starters and then says installing Docker in Ubuntu. Okay, go through, do this, that, the other thing, look at Docker and so on. Now these instructions might need to be, you might need to check the new versions if you've got your own VM. Okay, but basically run Docker and then you do sudo docker run minus, there's two minuses there. A few people get caught on that, watch out for that. Okay, minus rm minus it minus p 80:80 vulnerables web dvwa. Okay, so what it actually is, there's actually a Docker image which runs the damn vulnerable web application, which is DVWA is a web application that's been developed specifically to be vulnerable. If you've got your own VM, it's very quick and easy for me to say, just do Docker run and magic will happen. Okay, so giving you the instructions here to install Docker is relatively easy, right? Then running the damn vulnerable web application here is trivial once that's there. But in the pre-built VMs, I didn't need to give you the instructions for Docker because I can install damn vulnerable web application before I give you it. And that's what I've done. If you're using VMLab, it's also installed there. So you don't need to do Docker, obviously, in VMLab either. So basically, it's just installed locally. So if you go into the web directory, okay, var www HTML. Sorry, things I've been doing in the last few weeks. I've spent a lot of time going through varlog for various reasons. You can actually see the damn vulnerable web application is already installed. Okay, so what do we do? Very simplistically, you have to configure the damn vulnerable web application. So I'll bring up in Ubuntu, bring up a web browser, and then point it to the local one that comes up. So the reason, so what you would do with damn vulnerable web application, just while that's loading, is if you wanted to learn how to hack websites, then damn vulnerable web application is a nice simple one to start with. There's actually, there are people for hobbies, they actually put together all sorts of Docker images and virtual machines and so on for you to hack into and so on. And there's some, there's things like Metasploitable and so on that are more comprehensively built and so on to allow things to be hacked into and so on. Where's my web browser? Here it comes. I was going to say, where is it? It just popped up as I did that. Okay. Localhost. Okay. You then have to log in, admin. I think it's just admin, I think, is it? No, okay. I haven't done this for a while. I didn't think to actually check this first. Oh, okay. What's the password? Password. Admin, password. Don't save it. So what you actually have is set up and reset DB here. Okay, it checks everything, make sure that's all okay. Nothing's in red, so it's all working. Okay, so what you then have is there's DVWA security down the bottom. Okay, what level do you want it set to? Low, medium, high, or impossible? Right. So if you want it to be as easy to get into at all, you can set it to low. Okay. and then I assume that's actually taken it. So if I go away and then come back, okay, so it's still set to low. So what it actually has is it has a number of possible things here. So it's got, you know, cross-site request forgery, CSRF. It's got SQL injection, blind SQL injection, you know, you name it, all these different things here. So I've just set it to the weakest security of the lot. Okay. So just for the purpose of this one. And then from there, what we actually do is we actually can run skipfish. Okay, skipfish. Okay, web application scanner. It's a web application vulnerability scanner. If you're using a newer version of Kali, you might find it doesn't have skipfish installed. So you might have to look through, you know, web application analysis, and you can see it mentions skipfish there. There's also other things here that are used for different purposes as well, right? So you can see HT trackers actually being mentioned there. So if I run with skipfish, now the command's actually in those instructions, the ones we prepared earlier. Okay, dvwa, a admin password, HTTP 192.168.101. So what this is actually saying is -o is output file, where to actually store everything, or a folder. And then what it actually has is authentication details being provided in. So you can try it without the authentication details and these sort of things as well. See what it actually finds. But if I just run that, okay, and it's going to give it a go, let it go through, it'll just update things. So what it's actually doing is at the moment, Kali through skipfish is actually going through and scanning for known patterns in websites with regards to this, okay? So it's actually finished. It says this saves it to that location there. We can then have a look at that. So I'll start Firefox here because that's probably going to take a minute to start as well. Just whilst we're waiting on that one, I'll also start a new one. There's also HT track, which is what it's referring to at the bottom. Okay, so and it allows you to actually do things like to mirror a website is what it actually allows you to do. So somewhere in here, it'll have a nice simple example, I suspect. Okay, you can see it's got all sorts of things for like flow control, right? How many connections to use, what sort of timeout to use, number of retries and so on. One of the things, if you were to download somebody's website, then the problem you're actually going to get is that it's going to hammer their website and they'll get a spike in their usage, particularly from your web location itself. So what you can do is you can set it to do it progressively and slowly over time. So, you know, if I want to hack into a website, don't try to download the whole thing now. Just set it up and say download another page every 5 seconds or something, right? And then let it run overnight. Come up tomorrow, everything's there waiting for me to have a look. Okay, don't try to do a HT track on Amazon, for example. It'll take a while to download Amazon.com. So you have to be relatively intelligent about this. What have we got? Mirror. Make a mirror of the site, which is the default. Okay. So let's try that. DVWA mirror. Mirror. Not sure. Let's just try it. HTTP con 192.168.1.1. Okay, so it's mirroring. It's actually pulled down a copy. If I have a look in here, you can already see it's pulled down a number of things. It's pulled down cookies.txt. There's 192.168.1.1. Let's have a look in there. What has it got? There's an index.html file there. Okay, so you can see it's actually pulled down, created by HT track. So I can actually browse through this actual local site here as well. So if I have a look, it's just the default page not loading because it doesn't have network communication. And I can open a file there. Okay, let's just minimize that for a moment. Maybe. Okay. So the scanner created this one here, and I just find the index in here, index, and I can tell it to load, and it'll load it up here. So here's skipfish's issue. So it's actually said, oh, you've got in DVWA, you've got a directory listing available, right? So it's been able to pull out a directory listing of all of those different things there, whatever it happens to be. It has it's got a password entry form. It says that I can do a brute force against that. I can actually try to do that. It's actually got a 404 signature. You can actually see it. So 404 errors can be used to try and find out what's going in a website. So it's a good idea to hide those. It's actually got HTTP cookies that are actually being picked up. So what does that actually mean? What's being done? So what Skipfish is a vulnerability scanner. A vulnerability scanner is a simple tool that will use various patterns to identify potential problems with a site. Now, they're very simplistic. They're not very useful for securing a website in general, but the important thing to understand is they do help identify vectors for attack from attackers. So if you're into cybersecurity and want to learn to defend, you would use a vulnerability scanner for a starting point, right? Start by using a vulnerability scanner. Why? The hackers can use it. Therefore, that's a good point to start. Make sure that the vulnerability scanner is not picking up anything. Now, Skipfish is free. There are paid for ones which are a lot more involved and do a lot more scanning and a lot more checks and so on as well. And if you're an ethical hacker, or if you're actually a security analyst, you will often pay for subscriptions of these for yourself, and you'll add them to your own toolkit as well as part of that. Or your organization will pay for it for you. It's also, as I said, it's supposed to be possible that with HTTP Track you can actually open up HTTP Track directly itself. So there's the mirror. So if I open up the index.html here, it's actually pulls out. It's actually redirected me there. So, but it can actually make it so you can run it locally. And there's extra flags you can do there. So HTTP Track is very useful for that. But what it really does allow you to do is to have an offline copy of as much as it can get a hold of, so that potentially you might be able to identify problems with it. You can also often, there's various things that will identify various patterns. So if I have a look at that code there, okay, and I have a look through here, so I've got a meta equiv tag. Okay, it's not really giving me much there. HTML, HT track, meta name, site navigation stuff, subtitles. So there's all sorts of, it's a bit odd in a website to have the CSS sort of just sitting in the top here like this. But what you can actually have a look through, you can have a look through a website and actually get an idea of the technologies they're using. So if I pull out of that and go to Deacon, for example. So with Deacon, I can go to view the page source, and I can actually have a look through here and what might go through my mind as an attacker. Okay, looking at this site here. So looking at this site here, it's sort of like, okay. There's a comment there, okay, if IE8, okay, and if IE9, if greater than IE9. Okay, so it looks like these are. It looks like whoever's developing this site has put in a comment, and that's some sort of markup of some sort, maybe some sort of shortcut, which I'm not familiar with that notation, but it could just be for a particular platform that they're actually using for an MVC framework or something. But they've got some tags there which suggest there might be something specific for Internet Explorer. Okay, so I'll bookmark that in my head. There might be something there relevant to supporting Internet Explorer that could have, because I mean, Internet Explorer 8. How old is IE8? Where are we? Version history. Internet Explorer 8. So Internet Explorer 8 was released in 2009. So does the Deacon website have some code in it somewhere that was written back for 2009? Okay, now it probably wasn't written in 2009, but it was written to target something that was in use in 2009. So it suggests that there's some old code there somewhere. Maybe, hopefully they're all commented out. I mean, talking as somebody who works for Deacon, hopefully that's not possible. You can break in that way. Okay, we've got a viewport being defined here. Having a viewport defined probably suggests that they're using maybe something like Bootstrap or some sort of responsive web framework here. So they might be able to pick that out. They're using Google Site Verification things there. So what is Google Site Verification? I can Google that and go find out about that. There's Marketo. What's Marketo? Not sure what that is.